Welcome. Today we are assessing our thoracic spine mobility. Another really important piece that is responsible for a whole lot of movement no matter what activity we are doing. And if one of the planes of motion is tight in our thoracic spine, that can create a whole lot of imbalances up and down our body, especially low back and neck. A lot of individuals who come in with low back or neck discomfort, a lot of times, a lot of the cause is from a lack of mobility in one of the planes of the thoracic spine. So what's really cool is we're going to go through everything that your thoracic spine needs to be healthy, and you can assess what it's doing a good job in and what it needs help with. And whatever you feel is a little tighter or gunkier, you can take these same movements we're using to assess and then go ahead and continue to do them over a few days or a few weeks until you really start to feel it start to open up and get better. And as always, if you need more help, you can contact a coach through our app, HomeFit Plus. You can also find a whole bunch of free mobility videos, as well as strength, metabolic power, but specifically that relate to this video. In that mobility section, a lot of great thoracic spine work, low back, neck work as well. So team, let's get started. We're gonna start with we're gonna start with thoracic spine flexion, okay? So all that means is we're gonna take our hands kind of just a little bit crossed. I got them touching the shoulders. I'm gonna tuck my chin in and I'm gonna round my spine really until I start to feel my lower back get involved. So I'm just gonna round it forward, okay? So this would be too far. Then I'm looking more at here, okay? I wanna be looking more in the middle of my back here. So I'm just gonna round forward just like that. And I'm just feeling out. Does one side feel a little bit tighter than the other? Or do I have a lot of stretch going on? Like, does it feel like one big stretch? You know, you might feel it up into the neck a little bit too. Or does it feel like it's moving pretty easy and you don't feel much stretch at all, okay? So if you're feeling a big stretch, probably something you should start to practice a little bit more. But now we're gonna go into the opposite. We're gonna go into thoracic spine extension. And again, from the middle of the back, that's where we kind of want this move to originate. This is probably the trickiest one of them all today. And usually the area that I find on individuals the tightest. So because of our cell phones, because of our desk jobs, and a lot of other reasons, we tend to start to lose a little bit of extension in our thoracic spine, and that forces the low back to have to do a bunch of extra work and a whole lot of other stuff, and then we end up with an unhealthy spine. So this one is a little trickier. You might even, if you have a family member near you or a mirror, you may want to use that after you've done practice it on the video with me. So we're gonna originate the movement from the middle of the spine, and you can see I'm only moving back like an inch or two, if that. So I feel a lot right through here, okay? So if you feel like when you're coming back, if you feel like all you feel is your lower back, or you feel your lower back move forward, that means you've probably ran out of motion. If you're doing it correctly, you've ran out of motion here, and your lower back's having to do that work for you. So again, just slight extension. I can feel it getting a little bit easier the more I do it. And you're doing it right along with me. And again, too much would be like this. Then I only feel really my lower back here. So just enough movement to create that extension. And hopefully we feel pretty good doing it, and hopefully we're able to do it. Again, sometimes when I ask individuals to do this, it's just a lot of low back and they're not able to get much, or they can get back to neutral but can't go into that extension. Very important, especially in today's day and age. So super important that we're able to do that. That covers the forward and back motion of our spine. But whether we're walking or doing a lot of other activities, our spine also moves side to side and it also rotates. So let's go into the lateral flexion here. So we're gonna have our hands starting here, and I'm gonna tilt sideways to the right. And I might feel a stretch here. If my right low back is really tight or mid back, I might feel a little bit of discomfort moving that way, like I'm squishing on something that's kind of tight. But really we're looking at the motion of this side, the bending, that outside bending side. And I'm gonna go a few more times. And for me, I'm doing pretty good with that. And then I'm gonna compare it to the other side. So remember, there's two things we're looking for. We're looking for how fluid does it feel, or is it really tight and gunky? And then we're also looking for symmetry. We know the more symmetry our back has from side to side, the happier it is, and the happier the things are above and below it. So we want them to be both fluid, and both pretty symmetrical. And I like both sides on that. Felt a little bit more out here going to my left than I did a little bit more out here going to my right. Okay, there's another little bit of piece that's sideways here, and we're gonna translate our spine. This one is a little bit trickier. It's okay if we don't master this the first time. But our hips are gonna stay, and we're gonna ask our spine, so you can see the middle of my Home Fit logo, we're gonna ask our spine to move laterally, right and left. So I'm not bending, I'm actually just kind of shifting, okay? So I'm gonna do that quite a few times here. You're doing it as best you can along with me. All right, hips stay, but the mid spine, I'm going to my right. And I'm just feeling, how fluid is that? Am I doing a good job with it? Is it easier, or is it really gunky and tight? Okay, now I'm gonna go to the other side. So again, I'm moving out, okay? I'm not tilting. It's a lateral shift. I like to keep my shoulders here, or my hands on my shoulders. Makes it a little bit easier for me and my brain to kind of do this move. There's definitely a little coordination. So the first time through might be more of a coordination thing where it's tough to kind of feel that out. But after practicing this a few times, you can get a better idea if it's more of a tightness thing or more of a kind of figuring it out. So again, hips stay, and we're just shifting. I like to think of it as me kind of just guiding my shoulders to the left, but my hips are kind of hanging where they are. If you feel like you're tilting, then we got to get back to that more translating. Now, when I go this way, I definitely feel a little bit more of a pull over here. So that's something that I would want to practice. Definitely going more this way. Feel a little bit more tightness, okay? So that covers the side to side plane of motion of the mobility, the spinal mobility. Now we're going to go into the rotation. Again, incredibly important, especially for golfers, any athlete, but really just everyday life. We need the ability to rotate, and if it's not there, our back and hips, they have to work much harder, our neck, to be able to get the job done, and then again, a lot of times create some discomfort, okay? We sit in these desks and we're mainly just in one plane of motion. We don't get a lot of side to side and rotational stretches in, then we start to really kind of get stuck in that one plane and don't move as well in the others. So let's check in on the rotation. Again, there's gonna be two ways we're gonna be doing this. One's a little easier, okay? And we're gonna feel it out. We're just gonna turn to the right. I'm gonna take my hands kind of right out here, and I'm gonna turn as far as I can. I'm gonna let my head go with me. And we're just feeling that out. Ideally, the toes are straight, so we get a good read. So we don't have one foot pointed way out and one foot in. Then it would, we'd have a little bit different of a read with it. But you'll notice my hips are turning with me. So it's not just pure thoracic motion. So this one, I'm letting the hips go with me. Again, it's a little bit easier. And it's a little bit easier to feel. And you can always revisit the tighter side or the first side. This one feels a little bit tighter to me. Now, to make it a little bit more purely thoracic spine, and to get a little bit more of a direct read on it, we're actually going to keep our hips where they are, and we're going to turn as far as we can. So again, I like my hands to be on my shoulders for this one. My hips are going to stay square to you, or as best to my ability, and then I'm going to turn as far as I can. And that, I can, sometimes it's kind of fun to kind of see, all right, where can I look to in the room? as long as your head kind of stays, you know, centered on the chest. Excuse me. So in other words, we don't want to turn this way, but if I can keep going with my neck, again, then it's just I'm judging it by the motion in my neck. So I'm just going to turn, and I'm just going to, again, feel that out. How easy does it feel? Does it feel like it's getting stuck here? Does it feel like I can go further? So hips stay nice and square. I'm kind of keeping my head in the middle, and I'm going to turn. Okay. Same game. And a lot of times when I do this with clients, I have my my hands kind of right on their hips to kind of keep them from moving. Then it's a little easier for them. But for us right now, we're going to do the best we can to keep our hips square and just turn. So I'm going the other direction. I'll kind of revisit that first one. And again, you're doing it right with me. We're just feeling it out. Is it fluid? Is it symmetrical? And rests. Okay, team. A couple things we might notice. One is our back might just feel looser just from doing that. Okay? Two, always start small anytime we're doing this, and we can always get bigger and further out as you feel more comfortable with it. So tomorrow you might wake up a little bit more tighter, and you might not start where you ended the day before. But over time, the more and more you do this, you should start to feel a little bit better, and that these gains that you're making, these mobility gains, start to stick, start to stay, especially following up with the stability work as well. So again, what's really cool is the test is the exercise, and the exercise is the test, as Gary Gray from Gray Institute likes to say. So just by testing that out and doing those, as long as we did them in the right way, we should feel a little better. If we were to revisit these again, right after this video would be done. But keep working on whatever was a little bit tighter each day. You could do all of them if you got the time. But whatever's a little bit tighter, create that symmetry, create that fluidity. Make sure you go to Home Fit Plus for extra work if you want some other strategies on how to approach some tightness through the spine. And what's, again, really, really neat is we can take these movements and they don't take long to do. And we can start to get a noticeable difference in just a couple minutes. And sometimes that's all it takes. A few times a day, get up from the desk, give your spine the other motions that it doesn't get from sitting all day, and it will be so much happier. It'll be so much happier when you go to do your day-to-day activities. If you're feeling a little bit discomfort, that might mean you're going a little bit too far, so you gotta stay a little less. So we don't want any pain, we don't want any discomfort when we're doing these. But if you feel a little tightness, the more and more you should keep working it, you should notice that gets better and better. All right, team, very proud of you. Nice work.